All right, we're back with Mike Capuano. You worked with Nancy Pelosi for 2 decades in the House of Representatives. Talk about her impact on what has happened. There's been a lot about this schism between her and President Biden. People are saying she was the, frankly, person behind the curtain maneuvering to get him out of the race.
That shouldn't surprise anyone. Nancy is one of the most capable politicians I have ever met. She is tougher than any pit bull I've ever met. And she's smart. If she put her mind to pretty much anything, you'd be wrong to bet against her. She was convinced that Joe Biden, we all like him, we all respect him, but he wasn't the right candidate for this time. You can come up with 1,000 different reasons. It's not personal, and it was too important in her mind, I have to assume, I haven't spoken with her about it, it was too important to not lose this election to Donald Trump.
It's very late in the game to make the change.
Yeah, it would have been better all around, I think, if it had happened earlier. But so if you remember, Nancy was also one of the people who was pushing most for an open, some kind of a campaign. I thought it was too late for that, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. It was too late for that.
There were some, actually, I guess I call them conspiracy theories, though, that in some ways this has benefited Kamala Harris, because if there had been, let's say Joe Biden said 18 months ago he wasn't going to run, there could have been a primary, would have pushed everybody to the left.
I don't think it's a conspiracy, but I do think that the circumstances did benefit. I don't think it was any plan. If it was any plan, it was a very bad plan. I don't think Kamala Harris's supporters would have that much control over the circumstances to create that plan. Maybe I'm being naive, but I don't think so. Do I think that the circumstances ended up that way? Yeah. We would have had a very difficult primary if this had happened 18 months ago. There were some people, and I kind of fall in that myself. A primary is not necessarily a bad thing. Nothing wrong with that. As long as you have enough time, you would have had 10 people in the race, and if whoever won would have been a good candidate.
All right. Do you miss Congress?
Not almost ever.
That was quick.
I missed my friends, but little by little my friends are leaving. I miss seeing people on a regular basis, but I get down not infrequently, and I get to see some people. I do not miss the rancor. I didn't realize how fast my daily life was going until I got off the treadmill. Because you just do it. I've done it for so long, not just politics, not just Congress, but mayor and everything else. Just been running so fast. I didn't realize people actually had weekends to themselves, that they didn't have to go to 17 chicken barbecues on a Saturday, and that they could actually relax, maybe do a little gardening, do some reading. I've actually done some pleasure reading in the last few years, and I happen to like it. So, and plus, there's time to move on, not for me, but it's also time for politics to move on and see some new blood. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, she was on OTR with us just last week. What do you think about the job she's doing?
From what I see so far, fine. I mean, the way I look at it, I try not to talk about other politicians that are local because they have the same difficulties I had. Would I have done the same thing that everybody else would have done? The answer is no, but that's true about me, my own wife. We disagree on certain things. But there's no need. I think Ayanna's doing a fine job. I think she's representing the district exactly the way they want to be represented.
Does Kamala Harris win in November?
I think so, but I think it's going to be one heck of a tough fight. I know this week we're feeling good about the convention and we're all feeling pumped up. I think it's going to be a very tight election, and I do think she will. And
will the Democrats flip the House?
I think there's a very good chance we do that. I hope we. I think the answer is yes.
Yes to both.
Yes to both, but I'm also hoping that we can hold on to the Senate. I think there's a shot at that. I think that's the toughest of the three.
Right. Thanks again to
Thanks
former
for being
Congressman
here.
Mike Capuano. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
The Sunday Roundtable coming up next. Massachusetts getting time to shine at the DNC. Is the Bay State getting an influence upgrade with the Harris Walz ticket? We'll talk about that and much more. Stay with us.